welcome back to another Teacher Time with Kelsie. I have a special story in mind for you today that was actually inspired by a conversation I had recently with one of our olive room children, Isabella. So after one of our video calls, Isabella and I got to talk for a little bit just about some of the stories that I've told and some of the ones that she really enjoys and the ways that I tell stories, the things that she likes about how I tell stories. So while we were kind of talking about that, it actually made me think of this one story that's kind of spooky but also just kind of fun. And it's a story that a lot of children in the olive room last year used to request. So it was a big favorite in the olive room last year, and I think part of the reason why is because it is kind of based on something true that happened to me. But I took that true thing and I turned it into kind of a silly story that I could share with people. So it's fun because there's a little bit of my real life in it, but there's also some elements that make it kind of fun and silly too, which is what a lot of children really enjoy. So I'm hoping that you guys will like this story. Maybe it'll give you some ideas. And for those of you who do know, hopefully it'll be nice to hear the story again. So why don't you grab your favorite drink, find your cozy spot, and I will share my pumpkin patch story with you all. Here we go. So this story starts when I was about 7 years old, and my parents told my brother and I that we were going to be going to a pumpkin patch. It was close to Halloween time, so I was super excited, and I had been thinking the entire week about what kind of pumpkin I would get. I was wondering if maybe I'd get a big pumpkin or a small pumpkin. Maybe my pumpkin would be a certain color. And I tried to imagine all the things I might do with the pumpkin I got and how I could maybe carve things into it and use it as a decoration for our house at Halloween. So by the time we were ready to go to the pumpkin patch and get our pumpkins, I'm sure can imagine, I was so excited. I couldn't wait. We got into the car and we drove, and the whole time I was just waiting to get to the pumpkin patch, and I was thinking about what I was going to get, trying to imagine what my perfect pumpkin would look like. And then my parents drove us there, we parked, and when we got there, I was so excited I unbuckled myself. Me and my brother hopped out of the car, and both of us ran as fast as we could through the entryway of the pumpkin patch. They had made a big door to get into this pumpkin patch with hay bales too. If you guys know what those are, it's kind of like big squares or cubes of grass that they've tied together. So that formed this huge doorway, and me and my brother ran as fast as we could through that doorway, and when we came to the other side, we froze, because when we looked all around, this pumpkin patch was amazing. There were games, and there was food, and there were bouncy houses, and there was even a corn maze in the back of the pumpkin patch. And in the very center, there was a huge circle filled with pumpkins. We were so excited, and we couldn't wait to pick out our pumpkins. So my brother and I ran straight for that pumpkin patch in the middle first. And we were searching all around. We were picking up little pumpkins and looking at them, picking up medium-sized pumpkins and looking at them. And then I spotted the pumpkin that I knew I had to get. I looked over to one side of the pumpkin patch, and sitting there was the biggest pumpkin I had ever seen. I looked at it and I was so amazed. And I knew that I could carve some really cool things into that pumpkin, and I had to have it. So I ran over, and I went to try to pick it up, but it was too heavy for me. My mom and dad tried to pick it up, but it was too heavy for them too. So we had to go get a wagon and bring the wagon over and put the pumpkin into it. We put that big pumpkin into the wagon, and we were so excited. We were getting ready to go buy our pumpkins, and we were looking around to see what pumpkin my brother picked out too. We hadn't seen his yet. But as we looked around the pumpkin patch, we realized that something was wrong. My brother was missing. We looked all over the pumpkin patch, and we didn't see him. We ran over to where the games were. Maybe he was playing a game, but we didn't see him there. We ran over to the food. Maybe he had gotten hungry, but we didn't see him there either. We ran over to the bouncy houses. Maybe he wanted to play in them, but he wasn't there either. And then, all of a sudden, we heard a scream. Ah! All of us looked at each other. We recognized that scream too well. We knew that it had to be coming from my brother. So we followed that scream. Ah! Around the pumpkin patch. And we got to the corn maze. We listened in the corn maze, and we heard the scream again. Ah! We realized my brother had to be inside the corn maze. So we ran into the maze, looking all over for him. We ran down one path, but we hit a dead end. We ran down another path, but we hit another dead end. We went around a corner and down another path, but we hit another dead end. And the whole time we kept running, we could hear my brother going, ah! 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 We tried our best to follow his voice, to make our way through the maze, and to get around the dead ends. We went around one corner, and the next, and another, and another. And then, all of a sudden, we turned one corner. And as we turned the corner, we saw something looking down at us from up top. With a big black cloak and big dark eyes, we saw a skeleton looking at us with the spookiest face like this. All of us froze and we looked up at this scary skeleton. And then, you know what else we found? Right underneath the skeleton, we looked down and we saw my brother. And he was curled up into a ball and he was going, ah! 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 We looked up again and we realized the skeleton was just a decoration. But my brother had went into the maze and he had seen it. And he had gotten so scared that he curled up into a ball and he just started yelling, ah! Ah! And we looked down at my brother and we were trying to tell him, it's just pretend, it's just pretend. But he was already so scared, he couldn't even get out of the ball. He just kept shaking and yelling. And we knew we needed to get him out of there. So we all kind of looked at each other and we were trying to think, what are we going to do? And then we looked over and we realized that we still had a wagon. So we took my big, beautiful pumpkin out of the wagon. We put it on the ground and we put my brother into the wagon. And then we pulled the wagon out of the maze. We pulled it back through the pumpkin patch where we grabbed 2 pumpkins, one for me, one for my brother, but just 2 small ones because that's all we could get really quick. And we got those pumpkins and we left that pumpkin patch. We got in the car and we put my brother in there. We drove away and we left with our 2 pumpkins and a very, very scared little brother. And that's the end. So that was the pumpkin patch story. I know some of you are probably familiar with that from hearing me tell it in the past. For some of you, maybe it was a brand new story, and if it was, I'm so happy that I got to share that with you. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that maybe that was inspiring for you and gave you some ideas of how you could take things that have happened to you in your life and turn them into a story. I know I really enjoy that, and I think that that's something that a lot of people like to listen to as well. So thank you so much for hearing my story today and for joining me on Teacher Time with Kelsie. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye.